Hello my wonderful besties, I hope you're all well. Before getting into this video, I wanted to offer a trigger warning for topics of self-harm, suicide, and depression. If these topics are something you're uncomfortable with, please protect your peace and proceed with caution. Have you ever felt like an outsider? Someone who doesn't fit into the mold of what's enforced on them? Have you ever been looked down upon for certain mannerisms you express, or the activities you participate in, or received criticism for stepping outside the box of rigid social norms? Have these experiences transformed you into someone unrecognizable? Have you ever considered ending your life to alleviate the suffering this has caused? Well, if any of these apply to you, you might have been the product of bullying. When I was 6 years old, I transitioned into a new family as a child of divorce and confronted a whole new aspect of myself. I was extremely flamboyant, energetic, and talkative, which was never frowned upon during my formative years. On my parents' side, however, these traits I possessed were deemed excessive, peculiar, and needed to be tamed to fit a particular image of masculinity. As I started attending school again, these thoughts constantly pervaded my mind, but I ignored them to be my most authentic self. Fun fact, my mantra, which remains with me today, is to be fearlessly authentic. However, not too long after that, my parents' comments would steadily resurface with people at school, degrading me left and right to devalue my contribution to what I had to offer to the world. I felt lost, ashamed, and heartbroken for being belittled simply for being me. I was often too scared to confront people about the way I was treated for fear of being labeled as a tattletale. Media also informed me during this time that people similarly face such challenges during their adolescence. Krissa from the All-American Girls franchise was someone I deeply resonated with on screen. She was moving to a new school and adjusting to an unforeseen environment, which came with significant obstacles in making friends. These obstacles mainly took the form of mean girls who were jealous of Krissa's swimming talent and felt the need to demonize her for their own personal satisfaction.
Guys, stop it. It's not funny. Stop it. It's not funny. Stop it. Stop. Gee, Krissa, I guess nobody likes you. Guess not.
Tara, you have to cut this out.
What? We didn't do anything, did we?
No, we didn't.
No.
But by the end, Krissa helped spread awareness about her experience with bullying a la class project and highlights the complexities that go through one's mind when in that situation. As time went on, the more I recognized that bullying is an all too common experience people have in their lives. It's a reality that seems nearly inescapable, even to this day. Over the past year, there's been a lot of chatter about why people are acting so mean now.
Growing up, I used to wonder why people were always so mean to me, would bully me, would talk about me.
Okay, unpopular opinion. Actually, it's probably popular. Why are people so mean nowadays?
If someone's done something terrible to you or said something really nasty, they're rather ugly, unsuccessful, or so extremely unhappy within themselves.
Can someone explain to me when fandom spaces got so mean? Like, just mean? Don't get me wrong, there's always been bad eggs and bickering and things like that. But when did we forget that we're all the weird kids?
Tell me why I hear this older woman muddle under her breath and she goes, too much makeup.
It's been attributed to the pandemic, political polarization.
When you look at the state of the country today, you can see the consequences of our having demoted kindness and concern for the common good.
In their 2024 report conducted by the World Health Organization, they discovered that 1 in 6 children experiences cyberbullying. While these statistics presented center around adolescence, what stood out to me was their gendered nature. As of late, boys were significantly more likely to facilitate virtual harassment. Perhaps this is a sign, maybe even the catalyst, for bullying making a resurgence.
Bethany, please. Not today.
We're tired!
I'm not particularly fond of the phrase Why is everyone so mean now? Because that would suggest people acting rude in recent history wasn't the norm. Fandom spaces especially have a reputation for outlandish behavior. Them being standoffish is the equivalent of finding a pillow on your bed. That's essentially how things are. While some could point to the distaste surrounding dogpiling in the creator space and self-unaliving cases making headlines, however, those instances gain traction despite the bullying resurgence narrative, not because this behavior ever lost its prominence. With the implementation of mass communication media, we've just become more aware of its impact on the public. It's less that meanness is coming back and more that it's infiltrated every space we plaster ourselves onto, even within the realm of anime.
Hey, you!
I'm sorry.
Hold on. She's that Hyuga girl, isn't she? Come back here! Go on, apologize.
And be nice about it, too.
I see what I mean now. If she gets me alone in a room, she'll end up hitting me again. That's what she always does to me.
Did you hear that? What an abusive skank. I can't believe she's been hitting Sai all this time. She won't get away with this.
Help me, please.
Look at her. She looks like a big wet cat.
You know, you said some pretty mean things to me earlier, girl. You said I was a monster. Do you think I'm a monster now?
Doria, don't you want to go to UA too?
Doria, you're kidding, right? There's no way you're getting into the hero course without a quirk.
Listen up, Deku! You're even worse than the rest of these damn rejects, you quirkless wannabe! You really think they let someone like you in when they could have me?
Since the dawn of anime, characters have been battling insecurity, prejudice, and discrimination throughout their lives. We develop parasocial connections to their negative experiences and similarly strive to overcome these obstacles. The bullies in question desire acceptance from their harsh circumstances or upbringing in pursuit of dominance and influence over their peers. In this pursuit of dominance, bullies sacrifice their moral disposition, which enables them to perpetrate harm, even if the behavior is to shield away their own trauma, to not display any signs of weakness. So I want to use this "why is everyone so mean" convo as a jumping off point to discuss anime's fraught relationship with bullying. The normalization and performance of bullying is something incredibly fascinating to me, and it's not often talked about. Bullying, in essence, is rooted in a systemic overuse of power that involves a desire to hurt a person, ranging from physical to mental and emotional. This behavior is intentionally designed to facilitate aggression and hostility, and it's not limited to being received by one person. Traces of bullying have been documented back to several countries, such as the UK, Korea, and most relevantly, Japan. In Japan, bullying is also known as Ijime, which takes the form of psychological manipulation or physical aggression. Ijime's evolution mainly stemmed from parental punishments during the Edo period, where a child would be temporarily separated from their family to promote independence. The threats of familial abandonment were believed to help young men learn survival skills before approaching someone of higher authority. This ideal initially influenced school punishment policies at the Oyome school. If a child exhibited traits that strayed from social norms, teachers would ignore the student and urge other classmates to isolate them.
Japanese children are famously well behaved, with the idea of social harmony drilled into them from a young age. Their good manners and never cease to amaze. Few would expect rampant bullying among them, but according to a 3-year study by the Education Ministry, only a quarter of Japanese school children haven't been bullied, and even fewer haven't done it to others. Bullying in Japan is rarely physical, but that doesn't make it any easier on the victims. The teasing and isolation can be relentless and often involving the entire class. Sometimes led by the teacher.
Many of these ideologies stem from the country's heavy emphasis on equality, neutrality, and professionalism. The drive for equal treatment tends to reject people with unique qualities within the structural confines of the classroom. This creates a bit of a paradox. Educators' primary purpose is to ensure that students learn in a safe and healthy space. However, they maintain this atmosphere by not inserting themselves in situations that would place an imbalance on how they instruct a student. If students are all on equal footing, regardless of the treatment from their peers, how can one express the severity of torment that's being inflicted on them? Look no further than Shoko's experience in A Silent Voice. We're first introduced to her in middle school as a new transfer student, where Shoko informs everyone that she's deaf and communicates via notebook. Shoko has entered a world where she cannot audibly engage with others, which garners the attention of her peers who attempt to help her adjust. However, challenges are thrown in Shoko's way through the character of Shoya, who mocks her disability. Shoko's peers then follow suit and begin avoiding her, but the choir teacher caught wind of this and tries to remedy the issue. By slowly introducing the class to sign language, she's hoping to ease that barrier, but as time goes on, the ableism and mistreatment have reached new heights. 8 of Shoko's hearing aids were destroyed, her efforts to befriend her classmates were squashed, and then when the administration intervened to address Shoko's situation, it was already too late. The mirror then flips onto Shoya when the class collectively blames him for Shoko's departure, and he receives similar vitriol that Shoko experienced.
You should probably stay away from Shoya Ishida. He's a bully. He's so bad, a girl had to switch schools.
This early story beat of A Silent Voice would fit in neatly with how adolescents experience bullying, which is most likely derived from Ijime. The teacher Takeuchi doesn't come to Shoko's defense when her harassment first arises, and is complicit in enabling her social othering. Takeuchi's inaction to resolve the situation appears to be a byproduct of a bigger issue. The National Institute of Educational Policy Research conducted a study from 2004 to 2009 examining Japanese grade school students who experience ostracism. From 2004 to 2006, they found that the ratio of ostracism dramatically increased from 41.6% to 80.3%. One of the survey questions even asked teachers, if you see someone being bullied, do you intervene to stop it? In countries outside of Japan, the responses were primarily yes. In Japan, however, the percentage of affirmative responses drops during the 4 years corresponding to grades 5 through 8, which is also the period when bullying tends to be most prevalent. In other words, during early adolescence, Japanese children are more apt to ignore bullying or to look on without taking action than they are before or after that age. I think this is important to keep in mind, especially within the context of A Silent Voice, which unravels not only the implications for the bullied, but also the bully.
I'm sorry, Mom. I'm really sorry. I won't do it again. I swear I won't. Please don't burn it.
What are you not gonna do? Be specific!
I promise I'm not going to kill myself.
Flash forwarding to high school, we see Shoya grappling with his past actions and wanting to make amends for harming Shoko. But as Shoya ponders becoming friends with Shoko given their past, it will not be an easy feat. In his mind, remaining alone and not fostering connections with other people ensures he won't ever act in a demeaning manner again. This isolation, however, renders Shoya susceptible to self-loathing and limits the scope of his path for change, essentially relegating retribution as the primary way to receive forgiveness. However, Shoya's gradual friendships with Tomihiro, Miki, and Yuzuru all seem to help him progress forward, but there was still a looming shadow casting over him.
Shoya, but you're still the same awful person you were in elementary school!
But you used to make fun of her too, Miki.
I never ever said anything horrible behind Shoko's back!
What? You picked on Shoko?
Yeah, it was him! He was the one who made Shoko's life a living hell!
This part of Shoya clings onto his identity and haunts him at every turn regardless of his reparations. Singularly focusing the blame on Shoya allows the others who engaged in similar behavior to feel exempt from criticism. Despite conversations trying to demonstrate how dangerous this mentality is, Shoya ultimately doubles down and solidifies that he was the one solely at fault. The misery Shoya faces because of Shoko's presence leads to a horrifying realization that she is the root of everyone's problems. Thus, Shoko attempts to kill herself to end Shoya's suffering. Shoya's desire to make a change in himself spiraled him deeper into someone else's trauma, which he cannot fully understand. The frustration of not knowing whether or not your amends is sufficient is an internal battle that can be quite stifling. Never mind Shoko's deafness hindering her from an audio-centric world that alienates and punches her down to conform. It's not until the end where we see Shoya formally apologize for his actions and ask Shoko how he can live in her world. He acknowledges his insecurities and realizes that having deficiencies is normal, not only within others, but also within oneself, which doesn't make you any less of a person. Shoya is a good example of how bullying can manifest and is a reminder that the way we treat people, especially marginalized ones, can convey very important messages. The tug of war we're seeing from Shoya really feels as though he is trying to upkeep his reputation, his friendships, and that suddenly was shifted when Shoko arrived, which led Shoya's younger self to target her so that he wouldn't have to adapt to change. So Shoya has to unlearn that frame of thinking, which severely declined his mental health and sort of put him in Shoko's shoes. This leads me into the next section of the video, which is artistic ridicule. In 2016, researchers Kenneth Alpus and Bruce Carter found that there are activities which result in higher levels of bullying, specifically those pertaining to the performing arts. Alpus and Carter analyzed data from the National Crime Victimization Survey and noted students' reports regarding relational and physical aggression. The dataset comprised over 26,000 middle and high school students, 7,400 of whom were enrolled in music and theater programs. Female students reportedly faced a 41% greater risk of being bullied, while male students faced a 69% greater risk of being bullied. The cherry on top, male students were frequently subjected to physical aggression from their peers to denote their lack of traditional masculinity, while female students were primarily victims of gossip and spreading rumors via social exclusion. This is not to power scale levels of bullying, but the repercussions men face for engaging in fields such as the performing arts become much more pronounced in spaces that frequently stigmatize it. Exhibit A, Junpei's deprivation for pursuing ballet in Dance Dance Dancer. Junpei began taking ballet lessons after watching a male dancer at his sister's recital and was mesmerized by the beautiful performance. When he wanted to pursue ballet afterward, his father berated him for participating because he associated dance with being inherently feminine. But after watching his son dancing, he gives in and lets him start training. This all stops once Junpei's father suddenly dies from a heart attack and decides to leave dance in the past. To shed this horrific imagery, he decides to rekindle his masculine side that was advised by his uncle to keep their family pillar afloat. However, once a new transfer student Miyako arrives, his passion for ballet is reignited and he decides to jump headfirst into becoming a professional dancer. However, Junpei's shifting from martial arts to ballet comes with setbacks as he faces the harsh realities of becoming a male dancer, not only within the ballet world, but also outside of it. I guess it comes with testosterone.
ペイたちの始まっちゃうって。
やっぱいいわ。冷やかしてやろうと思ったけど、それもだるいし。何あの格好。ハリエ、罰ゲームじゃん。
This is all presented despite the fact that male ballet dancers in Japan are mostly viewed positively. While there are initial prejudices from their immediate circle, men dancing largely has positive connotations. The shift in hegemonic masculine stereotypes for Japanese men culminated with the rising popularity of male figure skaters and ballet dancers. Figures such as Tetsuya Kumagawa and Daisuke Takahashi helped pave the road for the social acceptance of boys engaging in traditionally feminine hobbies. This mode of male expression fostered a space for boys to develop their ballet training without having to redefine their masculinity. Within Dance Dance Dancer, this aspect is notably seen in the dynamic between Junpei and his rival, Mori. Mori began ballet training as a child and has received extensive technical training. Mori is supposedly the dark mirror and polar opposite of Junpei, as he didn't dance for the sake of enjoyment but out of coercion. Dance is all Mori knows, since he was forced to do it by his grandmother who physically abused him. Mori continues pursuing ballet despite it conjuring harmful memories, as that was the one place he felt as though he belonged. On top of that, he's viewed as an outsider by many students due to his trauma arising from being biracial. Mori's fear of being abandoned drives him to a more toxic view of his capabilities as a dancer. Mori's graceful, elegant, and lyrical quality of his movements is what many typically associate as aspirational for a dancer. But at what cost? Mori couldn't grapple with seeing someone who performed differently from him achieve more praise in the process. By separating Junpei from his individuality and movement encompassing passion, Mori could regain the admiration that was stolen from him.
帰れよ、野猿。お前さ、なんで体育館で踊ったんだ？すげえよな。ファンクラブ的なもんができたり、全部あれで変えちまったもんな。何も変わってない。あいつらが僕に興味をなくしたのは、あの時お前が自分に気をそらしたからだろう。気色悪い。正義の押し売りか？あいつらにバカにされたままの方が。
However, forcing others to conform to an archaic definition of a person will always leave some part of you behind. And for Mori, that was his passion for ballet. It wasn't until his beach performance where he fully expressed himself emotionally, which allowed his grandmother to finally acknowledge his talent. Mori fully accepts himself by performing the role he embodies and rebuilding himself from the harsh upbringing he experienced, ultimately forming a profound connection with Junpei through their shared experience with judgment for pursuing dance as their career. In the end, Mori's not only highlight the rigid expectations placed on teens growing up, but also the complications boys face when participating in activities linked to femininity. Boys have to overcompensate their masculinity by becoming more assertive and stoic, which unfortunately manifests in belittlement amongst themselves. But this behavior has not gone unnoticed. People have been coming forward sharing their stories about bullying and the detrimental effects it has on society at large.
Toa Morita was a national karate champion, but still he was picked on. After getting kicked out of a chat group for a school football club, things went downhill fast.
死ねとかそういうこと言われて。
Toa's mother says it was sheer luck that she woke up at the middle of the night to find her son lying in a pool of blood.
いつでもこう危機感がある状態なので、もう私の目の前にあの子がいる時しか安心はできない。
Cases of severe bullying have also led to rising cases of self-unaliving, which unfortunately disproportionately affect boys. Researchers believe these discrepancies are due to the perception that girls are more likely to open up and be noticed to receive help. On the other hand, boys are more likely to remain silent and blame themselves when put in dire situations. This can also be traced back to the underlying roots of Ijime, where men prioritize becoming independent and relying on others before seeking help from an authority figure. With this observation, we can see how prominent male anime characters often have arcs centered on addressing their own bullying. Naruto received pushback for having the nine-tailed fox lie dormant inside him, and was advised to mesh in with the other shinobi, eventually coming to the conclusion that Kurama is a part of who Naruto is, and had to become vulnerable with his mentors to be relieved of the pain he suffered. Kyo similarly had to overcome conforming to the other 12 zodiacs, and was frequently ridiculed, resulting in shutting himself off from expressing his feelings. As a part of the 20% of the population who remain quirkless, Deku faced torment from other classmates for wanting to become a hero. Sentaro, as a child, faced intense prejudice from his peers due to being biracial, which progressed throughout his adolescence. These aspects of these characters' lives matter. The primary cause of their struggles in a way involves bullying, which translates into the archetypes that bullies are shaped in these series. Anime clearly has a type when it comes to bullies, specifically ringleaders and bystanders. Think actions that exhibit remaining complicit, lacking compassion and empathy, or viewing someone as lesser than. For those who push this boundary beyond ethical limits, can be downright demeaning and dehumanizing. Just look at prominent bullies in anime, from Sai to Bakugo to Nyoka, all seem to exhibit this behavior. It's not a coincidence that when conflict arises from someone receiving more admiration, it makes them feel isolated, strange, and othered. In recent years, though, there has been a growing call to action regarding the perception of bullying, challenging the notion of homogeneity within institutions, and identifying how these behaviors can be stopped head-on. In 2017, the Japanese Ministry of Education collaborated with the March Comes In Like a Lion anime to establish an anti-bullying initiative. This collaboration aimed to provide resources for students who were victims of bullying through posters featuring characters who had experienced similar situations. The series itself acknowledges bullying as a widespread problem through Hinata's experience.
The person who bullies never admits it. And everyone else around the bully knows that if they snitch, they'll be the next target. That's how it works. They keep their mouths shut, then they're safe. With bullying, there's no way to prove it. It's only natural there's no evidence. The only one who can say there's been bullying is the victim.
Hinata is ostracized from the class because she associates herself with the oddity, Chihiro. The harassment became so violent that Chihiro had to transfer schools, resulting in Hinata receiving the brunt of the torment. When she raised concerns to the teacher, they were dismissed in favor of asking Hinata to look inward for a solution. The teacher's focus is on class harmony in order to maintain a pristine image.
Miss Kawamoto, stop it! But wait, teacher! You heard what she said, didn't you? But why? Why are you taking her side like that? I can't believe you really think that I'm the one who hit it! Stop it! You will not raise your voice to me!
But instead of Hinata shying away from formally addressing her bullying, she fights back. And the narrative isn't ridiculing Hinata for standing up for herself. It's presented as the right thing to do. From there, girls begin to approach her and hold themselves accountable for their actions. Subsequently, the teacher breaks a cycle of conformity by changing the hive mindset, which targeted a single student, which contributed to a hostile environment. But the most important message is that there are numerous ways to encounter bullying, and there is no singular way to receive forgiveness for the harm you've caused. Sometimes things are too severe for someone to receive comeuppance and need to redirect their energy into unlearning their biases. This is the hurdle many bullies never recover from. It's what makes advocacy so crucial during the aftermath. I initially set out to answer the question of why do anime bullies behave like that? I think I found the answer. It's primarily because people project their insecurities onto others to make themselves feel secure. But I feel as though bullying being relegated as just a phase doesn't fully confront the contradictions this type of behavior has on people's lives. And specifically within the realm of anime being home to a country with rising mental health decline among adolescents. This failure to grapple with the effects of bullying remains persistent and unresolved without proper advocacy and can plague people's personal and social identities. I think you could really feel that with Shoya's character in A Silent Voice. He wants to make amends for what he did to Shoko, but doesn't have the resources or the wherewithal to be able to make a monumental impact until the very end. And in the context of the meanness epidemic, because we've been conditioned to fend for ourselves in the face of adversity, it can be very difficult to find support over issues that have been previously perceived as not that serious. If you're struggling with your self-esteem and mental health or have experienced bullying in any capacity, please know you're not alone. Many of us have had these experiences, which is why I would love for all of you to share your experiences of bullying down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate all of you being here. Until next time.
I'm just curious, just to better understand your ruling, if someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
A what now?